Welcome to another episode of the Credit Pearls podcast. Today I have, Nicola Connolly Byrne on. I have actually never met her until today. I've only stalked her on social media, but I am delighted to have you, Nicola. Thanks so much for being
Sharon,
here.
you're so welcome. And I've been stalking you as well for ages.
It was like
mutual stalkers.
Yeah, it is. And listen, I was thinking about, before you came on, because I was thinking about the guests, and I was like, how would I describe what Nicola does? And then I was like, she's a people empowerer.
Yeah.
That's
what my name means. That's what Nicola means.
Okay.
Victory to the people.
Is that what it means?
It's a Greek name.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was chuffed at myself when I found out that that's what it meant.
Because that is really what you do.
It really, truly is the essence of everything that I do. So my name is just so synchronistic to that's what I ended up doing.
Okay. So today I want to find a little bit out about you, your background, where you grew up, all that information.
Yeah.
Then we're going to talk about your business, how you help people and all of that.
Yeah.
And maybe give some advice for people.
Let's do it.
But there's one thing that because you might not think you fit in with business people, but you are very important for business people because it's a very lonely place.
I 100% fit in with business people.
Yeah.
Business people need people like me in their businesses.
100%.
To speak to their people. But that's why I get hired to speak in businesses.
Yeah.
Because they know now, the big businesses know, now we have to be human.
Yeah.
Now we have to connect. Now we have to talk. Now we have to care. So, yeah.
But not really just pretend care.
Yeah, well, I won't do business now with the big wigs who are ticking a box.
Yeah.
So if they're there to tick the box, find somebody else to do that job. But if you have a pure intention behind why you're hiring me, well, then I'll work with you. But if you don't,
bye.
Jog on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so tell me, Nicola, where did you grow up? What were you like as a child? Tell us a little bit of background on you.
So I grew up in Edenmore in Dublin 5.
Okay.
Nobody really knows where Edenmore is. No. It's part of Raheny and it's beside Coolock and Artane.
Okay.
So everybody knows Coolock.
Yes.
So it's like a little extension of Coolock, really.
Okay.
Where I grew up was, it was the late 70s, early 80s. So there was a lot of unemployment. There was a lot of robbed cars.
Yeah.
There was a lot of addiction, violence, narcissism, gambling, lack. Sometimes the lights weren't on. Sometimes the heat wasn't on.
So, yeah. And that mindset.
And I was starving. Not all the time. But I remember hunger a lot.
Really?
So that's the core of where I began. So it's really important for me, especially for young people coming up behind me, to see that there is a person who started their life like that. But it doesn't have to define who they are as they're grown up. They can make decisions that's going to change the trajectory of their life forever. And it's always within your power to do that. So I don't like to get too dark for too long because energetically I don't like to live in that space.
No.
But it is very dark. And there's a reason why TEDx unlisted my TED Talk.
Did they unlist your TED Talk?
They unlisted it, yeah. And I actually...
What?
Yeah, at the start I was offended. But then afterwards I was like, no, because it makes it more interesting for people to try and find it. People who want to try and listen to it have to go to great efforts to find it. And look, it was unlisted because I had mentioned a court and they didn't like that. And that's okay. But my TED Talk is not for the faint-hearted. You have to kind of buckle your seatbelts and make sure that you are in a good, strong, emotional space before you listen to it because it's not easy. It's very hard. Because when you grow up in that environment and you don't have tools to protect yourself, you are left exposed and you're very vulnerable. Okay? So I let you go wherever you want in your mind with that. But I'm all better now.
So when you grew up in that environment, say when you were in your late teens, when you went into the workplace, tell me about that.
Okay.
And what that was like.
So you have to remember, I was living in an environment where people were in jobs where I didn't see anybody wearing a suit.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And all I knew, Sharon, is I wanted to wear a suit.
Yeah.
Going to work. I didn't care what I was doing. I just wanted to look well.
Yeah.
Because I'm still big into fashion, but I was really big into fashion as a teenager. I used to buy on my clothes and shay. But I just knew that I wanted to work in business, and I didn't know what business was.
Or what it just was a word, because nobody else was in your environment in that area.
No, nobody. So when I was choosing a course to do after school, I didn't do very well in my leaving, but I did get at leaving. I had 3 choices. I had childcare, I had secretarial skills,
Yes.
and I had computer programming. And I was very, very attracted towards the computer programming. And then when they told me it was a course for boys,
You really wanted it.
I said, is that so? Really? I'm going on that course. That annoyed me. Because I don't like to be told that you can't do something. If somebody tells me that I can't do something, I do it twice and faster and harder.
Yeah.
Do you know where I'm going?
Yes, I do.
So I went down and I convinced this chap to let me on the course. So there was me and there was one other, they let one other young one on so I'd have company,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So I fell very ill actually when I was doing that course. I had an operation and it took me to recover. It took me a long time to recover. So I missed out on a lot and I didn't do well in it. But what it did give me was, you know, a solid foundation of what computer programming was. I understood technical terminology and I thought I was deadly.
Yeah.
So about 12 months later, I saw that there was a job locally in a business for a receptionist in a computer company. And I was like, sure, I do that on the top of my head.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm great with people and I'll be able to understand the questions and the talk on the phone, right? So applied for the job, didn't get it. They hired somebody who had a far nicer accent than I did,
Yeah.
and had a nicer address. And it didn't work out, she only lasted a week. And the fella who interviewed me, who told me I didn't get the job, called me back. Do you know I've never told this story?
Really?
Yeah, I'm loving this. Going back to that, he called me back and said, look, Nicola, it didn't work out with this lady and we're wondering, do you want to spin up? And I said, I am going to be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was delighted with my life. I was actually lying in the bed. I was really, really sad at the time. And went and I started, and the managing director and the sales director, all the directors took a shine to me because I was well able. I was well able and I didn't tolerate
Nonsense.
off anybody. So one of them was passing through reception one day and heard me speaking to a customer on the phone. And they were like, how do you know about this and where does this come from? So I was telling them and they're like, here, you're not hanging around in here, you're wasted here. We need to get you into other departments. So I ended up going into sales. And I loved that. And
I'd say you were brilliant. I'd say you were brilliant.
Yeah, I was brilliant actually. So there was a guy in there who took me under his wing, God bless him, Jerry MacDonald. He passed away a couple of years after and he was very good to me. And he minded me and mentored me really.
Yeah.
Didn't realise that's what he was at the time, but he was. So yeah, I started in IT, then I left IT, I went into banks for a short period of time, then I ended up in Microsoft and I launched Xbox. My son thinks this is deadly. I was part of the team that launched Xbox in Asia actually, and then left there. Microsoft couldn't believe I was leaving because nobody leaves Microsoft.
Yeah.
You know, nobody leaves. And I'm like, if you think I'm spending 2.5 hours in the car to get here every day, you're insane.
So you had moved, were you living
Well, I was still in Raheny.
Yeah.
I was still over in Edenmore and I was driving all the way over to Sandyford.
Yeah, no.
It was insanity. So I left there and I had an agent at the time who was getting me work and she said, look, will you go for this job in Trinity? It's in the political science department. And I said, I've absolutely zero interest in working for any department in Trinity, working with professors and certainly not in political science. So she says, please, I'm begging you, you know, nobody will, please go. So I went in, Sharon, I'm not joking you. There was 3 professors sitting in front of me. Michael Laver, Michael Gallagher and Michael Marsh. And I went in and I said, sorry lads, I'll be Nicola. Because they were all, this is Professor Michael. Yeah. And I said, that's great. I said, I'll be Nicola and you'll be Michael and you'll be Michael and you'll be Michael. Michael Laver, gorgeous man, in stitches laughing at me. He just thought I was the crack.
I love this, yeah.
Michael Gallagher in the centre didn't know what to do. He was he didn't know what to do, you know. And Michael Marsh was just really confused and was kind of looking for guidance from everybody else. So I made a lot of demands in the interview and sure, I was there for the crack.
Yeah.
And they asked me really interesting questions and we had a great conversation about Irish history, because I'm big into Irish history. And I left there giggling. And by the time I was walking across the cobbles in Front Square, I got a phone call from your woman, and she says, I don't know what you did and I don't know what you said, but they're absolutely mad about you and they're actually offering you more money than you asked for.
No way.
And I was like, they are insane if they are going to hire me, because
I won't fit in here.
Zero interest. So anyway, the offer was too good at the time to turn down, because I was facing just about to get married, and sure, you need the few bob.
Yeah.
And it was the Celtic Tiger, and sure, I had a house to decorate every 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what we were like back
Yes.
then in 2000 and whatever it was, 2003 at the stage. So we're talking about 2001, 2002. So I took the job and I absolutely loved it. Fell in love with them all the Michaels, fell in love with them all, and ended up staying there for like 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, and I completely revolutionised the department, I don't mind saying it, because it was a paper-based department at the time, and I just brought them into
the new century.
Yeah, literally. But look, I had a ball, stayed until I had my child, and then he was born very ill, and I chose to give up my career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you then moved from Dublin, did you?
I moved, yeah. So when I was working in Trinity, just had Jamie. Jamie was born very ill. He had a disease called laryngomalacia, basically where he used to forget to breathe. So he was on a monitor. We spent the first 2 years of our lives living in Temple Street Hospital. I was on holiday. He was 6 months old. And we got a phone call to say that our house had been broken into. And I said to my husband, the house is going to the market, I'm not staying there. I just, energetically, I didn't want to be in a space where somebody was in my home that I hadn't invited.
And it really just, that was it?
It really disturbed me. So I knew somebody in GWD at the time, and I rang them and I said, you know those signs that you see outside an estate? I want that in my garden when I come home. And he literally did. You could hardly see the house for the size of the sign. So again, it was boom time, and there was arguments in the garden for who was going to buy the house. And it just kept, my house was absolutely beautiful. It was like a doll's house.
Dollhouse.
And the offers just kept going up and up and up and up. And that enabled us then to move to Duleek at the time. So that was, we moved on Valentine's Day 2006. I'll never forget it. Myself, Neil and Jamie, and he was 10 months then. And we had a great time, just the three of us, for a short period of time. And then the amazing Charlie Ann Byrne came into the world. And we had her then in that house for a couple of years. And then when Jamie started school, I didn't like the local school where we were, and I wanted him to go to a Gael school. So I drove into Drogheda to a Gael school every single day. And then when Charlie started Neenra, I was on the road, like I was just constantly on the road.
Because it's 2 hours and you're back and forward. Yeah.
You know, it was madness. Like the shape of my wheels was in the road, and I just said to Neil, there was a big blowout with one of the neighbours one day, and I'm just not into that. I'm big into community. I'm big into belonging, togetherness, and when somebody on your street behaved in the way that person behaved, I said, Neil, you need to get me out of here. I live around the corner in a box. I live in a field, I live in a tent, but I need to get out of here now. I can't be around that.
Yeah.
So we found this beautiful house. We used to say hello to the house every morning. It was on a load of land, an orchard, a forest, and it was for sale for years and they couldn't sell it. And it was 160 years old or something. But it was like, you know, a house that you would draw as a child?
Yeah.
It was that.
Yeah.
With an extension on the side of it.
Yeah.
And I wrote the owners a letter. And I said, I want to live in your house. You can't sell it. I don't have the money to buy it. It was a couple of million.
Yeah.
And I want to rent it, and I want to keep the mould off the walls, and I want to rear my children in this home. And I'll mind it for you, and I promise you I'll take care of it. And it will be mine. I knew it would be mine. So they called me by accident. And one of the relatives of the person that I wrote the letter to said, she must be insane. Is she mad? That house is freezing. And they were giving me all the reasons why I should not move in. Now, I never told them that.
So you could hear them on the phone. They didn't know.
They left me a voice message.
Okay.
They
Right.
were obviously putting my number into their phone.
Right.
And they hit dial and didn't realise. So I just thought that this was hilarious, and I was like, that house is definitely mine. I'm telling you now, we'll be in there next week. So we went down. They had a full-time gardener, right? And I drove down and I met
I like
Kit.
the sound of this.
Yeah.
I like the sound of this.
I'm telling you, his name was Kit, and I fell in love with him and he fell in love with me. And we became really good pals. And we were living in the house within 2 weeks. And I reared my kids there, and Jamie had his thinking tree, and Charlie had our field of flowers, and the apples that used to come in the orchard every year, and the school was around the corner. And I can tell you now, for the first time ever in my life, I found peace in the house. I found peace.
And had anybody been living in that house before you?
Oh God, yeah. So the people who owned the house were reared in that house, but they were in their 60s and 70s. Their parents had passed. I think the mother was still alive. She was in her 90s actually. She's passed since. But there was a lot of history. There was only ever 2 owners.
Wow.
The person who built the house, and then they sold it to the owners that I literally rented the house off. And it was magical. It was one of the most magical times of my life, and I absolutely loved it. It was a mental thing to do.
It was a mental thing to do.
Which
yeah.
I do stuff like that all the time. It's mental to other people,
yeah.
but it's not mental to me. Everybody was saying, you're insane. Now, listen, to keep the house, we were never warm. But that didn't make any odds to me. Sure, I was freezing as a child. Yeah. I was me and Neil were hardy.
Yeah.
We knew how to be cold. But to actually heat the house was the same amount of money per month as my rent.
Oh my God.
So it was massive. It was huge. And everybody said we were mad, but I didn't care.
You loved it.
Look, I'm not joking you. If I could go back, my son wants to buy it.
Really?
Yeah. Jay says I won't rest until it's mine. He wants his thinking tree back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So you rented there?
God, we must have been there for about 7 years. Used to have soirees in the afternoon. I'm telling you. Had the garden furniture set up permanently. You know, like it was like we lived on a lot of land.
Yeah.
And we were surrounded by beauty, you know. And there was no street light, no footpaths, no nothing. You'd walk out in the night time and you could not see your hand in front of your face. Now I'd be scared sometimes. Like I was scared sometimes. Especially if Neil wasn't around.
Yeah, dark.
Very, very dark. And I'd hear noises, and then there was one day I thought there was somebody in the house and all, like, and I'd be ringing it, I'd be like, I'm locked in the kitchen, will you come home? And he'd be there as soon as he could or whatever. But no, I think back and I smile like I am now.
Yeah.
It's just all of the feelings and the emotions of that home comes back. But I'm convinced Jamie will get it actually.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah, he will.
He will.
Yeah.
So then you lived there, then tell me.
Then the kids said, we want to walk to the shop.
Yeah.
And I said, absolutely under no circumstances. So I was listening to this jibber jabber for a good few months. We want to be able to walk. We want to be able to do our own thing. We're always having the play dates. We want to go to other people's houses. We want independence. So look, they're my kids. They're empowered.
That's in their
they
DNA.
can use their voice.
Yeah.
So I said to Neil, if we stay here, we're going to not break their spirit, but we're going to not allow them experience
Life.
Being out on their own.
Yeah.
So when I tell you we moved 500 metres around the corner, we literally moved 500 metres around the corner into an estate where there was street lighting and footpaths and traffic lights where they could go to the local shops. They were elected. Now I had to downsize everything. I had to give away a load of furniture because we were going from a house.
It was a big house.
You know, we were going from a house where, like, we had to downsize by like 10 times. And I love me things. That was tough.
Yeah.
Now wardrobe space. What's that? I had a walk-in wardrobe now. Me bathroom.
And now you're in a normal house.
My bathroom was as big as my current bedroom. And I just didn't know what to be doing myself. Sharon.
And listen, do you think you bought that house or rented that house because you wanted the feeling of wealth, grandiose?
Do you know, I never thought of it like that before.
When you were a kid, that, you know, that was something you could never have even imagined.
Do you know, I bet you on a subconscious level, that there was something around that, because I like me nice things, Sharon, not going to lie to you. I do like me nice things, and I keep my standards quite high. My son actually said the other day, if you want to see the smallest decimal point, it's Nicola's standards and perfection. I was in stitches laughing at him. It was really funny, but it's quite layered. It's a real deep statement.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say subconsciously there was a lot of that. But my intention behind it at the time was proximity to the school and peace.
Yeah.
I actually didn't want anybody around me at the time. I wanted no neighbours. I wanted me, my husband, my 2 kids, a field, a soiree, the end.
And that was it.
Yeah, and I got it. So we moved around the corner, and then the kids, so they're out in the street, they're making pals, they're
living like normal. And like what I think now is when I look at my children, so I have 2 sets of children. I have 2 older children, 27 and 23, and then I have 8 and 9.
Oh, wow.
So I have like 2 separate families. But all of mine were reared, like we were reared, out playing.
Yeah.
They play with their friends outside.
Yeah.
I don't really do play dates. I can't stand them.
Okay.
Right? Because I don't want someone else in my house, and I don't want to be in there because their kids are friends with my kids. I might not have anything in common with them, and that's very hard for me.
Yes.
So I'm sitting there trying to make small talk and drink tea, and I just don't do it.
Yes.
And it's uncomfortable. So the kids, but I love mine play out, like we played out. So they play with their friends where they're learning how to socialise, how to handle bigger kids, how to handle bullies, how to say no, how to say yes, how to do team playing without mammy saying, stop that, do that. And I see mammies who do that all the time, and I'm like, leave them alone.
Let them work it out.
Because the life lessons we learnt growing up with no parents monitoring, micromanaging us, we got great life skills that we could transfer to our lives.
Yes.
And a lot of kids are missing that because they're micromanaged. And the parents, like I was laughing, when mine go on a school bus, they go to a Gael school as well.
Ah, brilliant.
So they go on a school bus, and mine are very independent. All my kids are. The 2 older kids now think the younger get away with murder. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But I put them on the bus and said goodbye. And they took their own bag and they strapped themselves in.
Yeah.
Other mammies were getting on the bus.
Stop it.
Strapping them in, fixing their bag and waving for 6 months when the bus was gone, right? So I can't stand that. So I just think for kids to grow up to be very responsible and independent people, you have to let them grow up.
You
and
do
the normal things in life.
If you crush your child, if you hold on to your child, they'll wait until they're 18 and they'll be out to Sally Gap.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just let them go and come and go and come, I get what you're saying about the small talk with the play dates.
Yeah.
Where I was coming from when my kids were growing up was, I was the new girl on the block.
Yeah.
And I was operating in a community where none of my people were there.
Me too.
And let's face it, I don't fit into the norms of a lot of societal expectations, right?
Yeah.
So what I was trying to do was I was trying to work out and establish a new community for me.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to see who my kids were hanging around with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm all about do the entertaining, revolving door, have the pizzas ready, chat, get to know them, pull it all out, and then let the kids make their decisions. But then I have all the information filed in the back of my mind that if anything ever came up or kicked off, or if there was an upset or whatever, I'd have a greater understanding as to why.
Yeah, and who they are and what's going on there.
Yeah, and listen, I met great people when my kids were small, and I met some crazies as well, which are everywhere you go, it's a bag of jolly mixtures anyway.
Yeah, it is.
You just have to be able to protect yourself from all that.
Yeah, and so when did you start going into the line of work that you're in, and how did that come about? Because it is so interesting.
Yeah,
I remember the first time I didn't know who you were.
Right.
And I think it was during COVID, and I think it was Instagram.
Right.
It was, and I saw you on that.
Okay.
And it was like you came out of the phone. But you know where you're seeing so much fake on Instagram?
Oh, yeah.
And I saw you and I said, oh, I love her in seconds.
Thank you.
I said, this woman is really herself.
Yeah.
She is telling the truth.
Yeah.
And she's not been fake. And it was a breath of fresh air.
Everybody says that.
And I really mean that. And they're not telling lies.
Yeah.
But you can tell. So it felt like you came out of the phone and were here in my house.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, Sharon.
Yeah. And I really liked what you had to say.
Yeah,
and I really liked your message. And I thought I wanted to share. I've tagged so many people in your things. And I've wanted to share what you were saying. And it could be just something snippets
Yeah.
and pieces of advice and just telling a story that's the truth.
Yeah. And also relatable.
And it's like, that happened to me. I have felt like that.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid to say that.
Yeah.
Or I didn't know how to say that. Or I didn't have anyone I could say that to.
Yeah.
So for me, I loved it then. I started following you. I tagged my daughter in so much of your things and other people. And it's been great to get to know you, but never meet you through that channel and your work.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us, I know we said it was people empowerment. Tell me how that started, that journey for you.
Okay. Well, I suppose, to be truthful, that journey started for me the moment I was born.
Okay.
I had to be able to empower myself because I didn't have anybody around me at the time who was able to empower me. I did have key people that adored me and minded me and spoiled me rotten, but I needed more than that. So how I got into this line of work was when Jamie was born, I told you he was born very ill, and I wanted to know how the energy was working in his body. So I went and I studied Reiki immediately.
Okay.
So some people think that Reiki is hoo-ha and a load of codswallop and it's very unicorny. And what I wanted to do was, because listen, if you wanted to become a Reiki master, you could become a Reiki master in 6 weeks if you chose to.
Okay.
Because there's people out there who are charlatans and will allow you to do that. Whereas I take everything that, if my fingerprint and my name is going to be on something, I'm doing it correctly.
Yeah.
So I did it over 4 years because I knew that I had to do my own healing while I was studying Reiki, and I wanted to go to somebody who knew their stuff.
Okay.
And who came highly recommended. So I did do that. And I loved every second of it. So then when because I did Reiki for me and for my son, because I wanted to know energetically what was going on. So when my confidence grew with that, people were saying to me, would you mind if I popped up to you for a bit of Reiki? Like, I never did it because I wanted to go into business. And I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. So I started doing that for people that I knew or people who heard about it. And then the people who I knew and who I liked were telling other people. And then other people were like, she says you're very good at that. Is there any chance I could? Then I had to go and buy a plinth.
Yeah.
So then that happened very organically. It's kind of like everything that happens in my life, Sharon. It happens so organically. There's no big grandiose plan.
Yeah.
I just get pulled and I listen and I follow.
Okay.
So I did that for a couple of years and I literally was flat out. I was turning people away. So again, when my confidence grew with that, I noticed that people every now and again were coming back to me with the same issue. So they were getting off the plinth feeling great and floating out the door, but they weren't working out the core issue of why they were there in the first instance.
Okay, so they're going back to whatever it was the problem was. Okay.
So, look, I started writing when I was 7. I was challenged every single day. I cried every single day. I was exposed to stuff that children should not be exposed to. So I started writing and I kept everything that I wrote and I never stopped writing. And I developed...
And when you say writing, you're writing your feelings, your emotions?
Like when I was 7, it was, I am sad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I didn't keep that.
Yeah.
In fact, my mum probably got rid of all of that. She didn't keep and belonged to me. She threw out everything belonged to me, really. So as I got older, then I had journals, you know.
Yeah.
And it'd be kind of just writing what happened and an instance and how I went about it. There was always a problem and then there was always a solution. An action and then a solution. So I got really good at that. And I was thirsty. I was like a dehydrated sponge. I was so thirsty for knowledge about understanding myself, understanding personal development, understanding spirituality. And again, when I say spirituality, what spirituality is to me is learning how to love yourself unconditionally. The end. That's it.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with God or Allah or anything like that. It's actually my internal relationship with myself. So over time, I had developed these kind of writing exercises to do. I had no name on it at the time. And this young one kept coming back to me for Reiki. And I said to her, listen, I knew what our issue was, but I said, look, because I can feel what's going on. I said to her, look, I have this writing exercise, don't know if you're interested. I'll give it to you and sure, do it. And then the next time you come back, we'll have a little chat about it. How about that? And she was like, yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah.
So then I started doing it with more people. And then it became a thing. Then I had to start timing it. I was like, right, now we can't be talking about the writing for too long. We have to get you up there in that plinth. Then it became nearly, I was arguing with people.
They wanted this.
They were coming for Reiki, but people actually just loved the self-discovery of the writing exercises that I was giving them. And the day that it turned was the day that I didn't look at my watch and we ran out of time. And I apologised. I said, I am so sorry. I've completely mismanaged our hour. You didn't get up in the plinth. I'd like to offer you a complimentary hour next week and we'll just do the Reiki. And she goes, oh no, I'm not coming back for the Reiki. I'm coming back for this. I don't know what this is, but this is what we're going to be doing next week. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
So I got in touch with my mentor then at the time, Mark Whitehand, told him. And he was like, that's brilliant. Oh my God, this is fantastic. And you're going to be able to help so many people and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, but what is it?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. So we bartered with each other for a couple of days and he knew me very well, inside out and upside down. And I was kind of saying to him, no, I'm not changing the business name. No, I'm going to just stick with Reiki Master and blah, blah, blah. And he threw the gauntlet down. Now, he knew what he was doing at the time. I didn't cop what he was doing at the time because I was offended by him. He said to me, God, you're always banging on about authenticity and all. Doesn't sound very authentic to me. And I was like,
Yeah, how
literally, how very dare you?
Yeah.
Punch in the gut. I wanted to vomit. I was disgusted with him. But he did the right thing. He kind of needed to get that reaction out of me. So I had to sit with it for a couple of weeks. And then I knew, my soul knew, my heart knew, every morsel of my body knew, it was screaming at me. You need to change your business name. You need to change your title. I had an identity crisis. I think I changed it about 18 times in 13 days.
Yeah.
And people who knew me messaged me and like, another notification you've changed to this, another notification you've changed that. And I'm like, I don't know what it is yet. So I set up I am positive mindset.
Yeah.
Because I'm big into language and the words I am are very important to me. So what you say before and after I am is what you become.
Okay.
And I am positive mindset just sounded fabulous to me. And I got me branding and me logo and I was delighted. So I took counsel from a lot of people and we all decided that empowerment specialist would encompass everything that I do. I was so uncomfortable with that title for such a long time because it was I gave it to myself.
Okay.
Like you can't go and get a degree to become
people empowerment.
an empowerment specialist. You just are one or you aren't. It's that simple. You either know what you're doing, you've either empowered yourself and you have a load of tools to back it up, or you don't.
Yeah.
So I was uncomfortable about that, Sharon, for a long time. And people questioned me on it. And it used to really, really upset me and take a chunk out of me. Yeah. But they don't know me and they didn't know my past and I wasn't discussing my history at the time. They hadn't walked my shoes. They'd actually no business in asking me that question.
But people do, and it's so funny. And I was the guy who just left Justin that you met briefly. I've started working with him over the last few months and he spotted vulnerabilities in me that I didn't know were there. And like the first time he spotted something in me and it was really, you can probably relate to this. I was telling him my story and I won't get into it now, but I left out a whole chunk and I'm very open. And he said to me, where did you go to school? And I said, St. Aidan's in Tala. He said, you grew up in Tala? And I said, yeah. He said, but you never said that.
Right.
And I said, did I not? And he said, no, you left that out completely.
Right, okay.
But you told me very personal stuff about your life. So like that's what I mean. It was a piece, we did loads of work on it. And we spoke about, you can probably relate to this as well, where teachers would say, can you change your address when you're applying for a job? Right? And change your accent and don't. I was in jobs where people didn't know I was from Tala because I had a different address.
Yes.
Right? So even though they were trying to help me, but I was carrying that shame for all these years.
Yeah, it's very heavy.
So, but if people, that vulnerability, like that little vulnerability that you have, because you felt like, I don't really, as soon as someone said that, it's like, slap.
Yeah.
they were hurting you with your own vulnerability.
Yeah, yeah.
They were saying, people in power, who do you think you are?
Yeah, who do you think you are?
Yeah, this is who I am actually.
You're not qualified.
Yeah. Because
And in
people
my
don't value,
head-
you're like, I'm overqualified.
In my head, I'm like, if you only knew, chicken.
Yeah, I'm
If
overqualified
you
for
only
this.
knew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because so many people want that bit of paper to validate. And I know people with degrees that shouldn't have them.
Listen,
They're nothing.
I know people with PhDs coming out of their eyeballs and they have no rashes what they're doing. They can't
Yeah.
walk from one side of the street to the next without
Yeah.
assistance. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
piece of paper actually means nothing. I know that now, and I believe that now.
Yes.
And I
But at the
have that
time-
down. Back then, like 7 or 8 years ago,
Yeah.
you know.
Someone challenged you on it. Or
Yeah.
Smart arses, dying to say
And there was
something.
a lot of smart arses.
Yeah.
But sure, look, I was wet behind the ears.
Yeah.
And I grew up very fast in this industry. And it's so funny because energetically what you put out is you're going to attract it back. And because I was questioning myself at the time, I was putting that out. Of
course.
So there I'm going to attract those people in to poke, I call it your thorn, to poke that thorn.
Yeah.
To say, really, do you really want this? Do you really need this? Are you really going to pursue this? Are you really going to do all the things you say you're going to do? And I did.
Yeah, of course you did. Of
I
course
did,
you did.
yeah.
So then you started, so it started off with just you by accident, starting a business that you didn't know you were going to start.
Yeah.
Helping people who wanted your help.
Yeah.
Who are knocking on your door
Yeah.
looking for you. You're not out there trying to sell your wares.
No, I really wasn't.
This is the thing, right?
Yeah,
so that's how you know someone's authentic. because
Absolutely.
It wasn't like I put out the most sophisticated Google ads.
Nothing,
So-
nothing, zero. Like if I thought I was busy when I was doing the Reiki, I was so overwhelmed at the start when I changed the business name and
Yeah.
my title. Like it was actually insane. My husband was like, I'm delighted for you. And he
Yeah.
always says to me, go sing your music, Nicola, go sing your music.
Yeah.
It was actually like I was turning people away. Like there was an 8-week waiting list to come and see me, Sharon.
Yeah.
Like there was no more hours in the day.
Yeah.
But people were changing their lives.
But people have been helped.
People were changing their lives. Like people were saying to me, I remember getting a message off a young woman one day, and she said, Nicola, I've been seeing a psychologist in the HSC for the last 8 years, and I've seen you for the last 8 weeks. And she said, my last appointment with him, he wanted to know what had changed and what had clicked. And I told him about you. And I told him about the writing work and what we were doing. And she said, I never saw a man make more use of a pen than I did that day. Because he wrote down every single word she said.
Really?
Every single word. And she said, and then we do this writing exercise about that. And that's what this is for. And that's what that uncovers. And then we move on to this section. Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, this is. Now, back then, like that was early days. I was like, that's great.
Right.
Lovely. Can we just get back to doing the work again? You know, I was uncomfortable with that level of compliment, really.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with being able to receive that level of compliment now.
Yeah.
And the reason why I am is because I'm far more solid in my own skin. I know that I'm standing on a solid foundation of really good morals and values and my own backbone. I really couldn't care about what other people's opinions are of me any longer.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I can see my clients living the difference.
And that's the
They're
answer.
living the difference.
Yeah.
So anybody, now nobody, it's a long time since anybody questioned me on, what's an empowerment specialist mean? Or where'd you get that degree?
Yeah.
It's a long time since I've had that question, but anybody who ever asks me that question, I say to them, you're probably better off speaking to me clients, because it's them they're living it. My qualification is in the fulfillment of their lives and the purposefulness that they have now in their lives. And they're flying.
And when you think about people, right, so I'm going to tell you my why I'd be afraid to go to you.
Oh, goodness.
Right?
Hilarious.
Okay.
I hear that sometimes
Yeah.
that people are afraid to come to me.
So
That's
I
okay.
would be afraid to go to you in case there was a load of moaner women there that were complaining about their husbands and their husbands, right? So that we would be in this group where I don't fit in and I'm like,
Okay.
right, victims.
Right.
And I would be afraid to go to you because of that, because
That's hilarious.
I don't fit in there and
Yeah.
like this. And I've been to those groups where they're selling you X, but
Just so you know, we don't operate like that.
Yeah.
We don't operate like that.
Yeah.
We have a set of shared agreements that make
Right.
sure that that doesn't happen.
Because that's what can happen. So people who have issues, right, who are stuck in their lives, then go to a group with other stuck people, and we all moan about being stuck, but we just really want to stay here because we're victims. This is terrible. You can't move on, neither can I.
Okay.
Neither can she. Let's have a moan about this. See you next week.
Doesn't happen ever in any of my groups or in any of my workshops because I wouldn't tolerate it for a second.
And I was talking to somebody who I know who has been in your workshop and said, Sharon, if somebody came into Nicola's workshop, she wouldn't let them in if they started that.
No.
Banned.
Yeah, I've had to once or twice. You see, when it's a public event, right? When it's a public event and people are purchasing tickets,
You don't know who
again,
you're gonna get.
It's a bag of jolly mixtures and blah 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 blah. But I explain from the get-go. My shared agreements are put up on the screen, and if anybody can't adhere to them, or if somebody disagrees with them, they need to tell me in the moment.
Okay.
So there's the door, and there's your ticket money back. Best of luck. I wish you the best of luck. I really mean that. But no, nobody's ever left. But the shared agreements are there to keep everybody protected. The shared agreements are there to make sure that we're action-orientated thinkers.
Okay,
Right?
Love it.
None of that. We're not hanging around in the cesspit of madness, Sharon.
Yeah.
It won't be happening on my shift. There's other groups for that, but not my groups.
Yeah.
But when it comes to public events and we go to live Q&A, I love the live Q&A because most speakers don't like it because they get put on the spot, whereas I love being put on the spot because everything is going to be super organic then.
Yeah.
But there's been one or two times where people have held on to the microphone for way too long.
Yeah.
And they're going way too deep because, and I know why they're doing it. They're doing it because they've never been heard.
Yeah.
Right? I know why they're doing it. So I call that out. And I say, listen, I know that you want to be heard and understood and validated and held and all them things. But wrap it up because there's another 100 people in the room here who also need my attention. So speed it up and get to a question. And then we can talk about that later. Or we'll get you into a group, but we're not staying in victim mode. That's why my TED Talk is called Victim to Victorious.
Yeah, I know.
We're not.
And like I knew that you didn't do that, but I was just saying because I follow you, I'm like, I know it's not that.
No.
But that would be a fear of mine, and that would have been an experience of mine if I went into something like that. And I'm like, why are we all? What? Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
So, no, I can personally guarantee it.
Yeah.
And any clients of mine who hear this will absolutely come in under the comments and say, are you insane, Sharon? Are you a mentalist? No.
And listen, when people come to you, are you seeing like a hurt in people or a common thing in people that is reoccurring?
Yes. So the common denominator in all of my clients is that they are people pleasers.
Yeah.
They're wearing a mask. They have very few boundaries and sometimes no boundaries in place whatsoever. They do not understand what their own values are.
Okay.
And they're living according to other people's values.
Right, okay.
So when you live a life according to other people's values, you become a people pleaser, a confetti person, you become less than. And when you do that, your self-confidence is eroded and chipped away every single day. And you might do that for donkey's years, and then you wake up one day and you're like, I am so unhappy and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck and I don't know how to fix this. And they're on the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's my job to, they have to come to me, but it's my job to help them get the tools to step off the wheel, bring everything down to ground zero and rebuild back up on your terms, with your values, with your boundaries, from your experiences, and living your best life. It's that simple. It's very hard to do.
Yeah, it's very hard to do.
Like, don't mix up simple with easy. It's that simple. It's not easy to apply. You have to be 100% committed to yourself. And women struggle with that.
Yeah.
Because they think that everybody else needs to come first. Right? And what happens is when you put everybody else ahead of you, you become depleted. then you don't have an opportunity to decompress. Then you don't have an opportunity to refill your cup. Then your cup is empty and other people are coming to you looking for stuff out of your cup and you've nothing in it to give.
Yeah. And you know what, Nicola, I'm going to tell you this. I found this really sad. My mum's really ill at the moment. Right?
Okay, I'm sorry
She's
to hear
very
that.
sick. And we were talking about her life. And we were looking through a photo album of her on her wedding day. Right? I'm nearly crying
Hard.
telling you this, right?
It's okay.
Very hard.
It's all right.
So we
I
were
have you.
looking through this and she said, Sharon, all my family are dead now. She's the last one left.
My goodness.
And I said, Ma, you have us. And she said, it's not the same.
Wow, we're people.
And I said, really? She said, it's not the same, Sharon. They knew me when I was small. They knew me like no one knew me. And I've no one now that knows me like that.
My God.
Right? So,
God bless her.
and I was like, oh my God, Ma, like, we love you. She said, I know, but it's different. And we were looking at the wedding day and she was talking about her getting married. And I said, was it the best day of your life? I don't know, was it? And she said, you know, I really wanted to be a nurse. Right now.
Regret.
Stop, right? I said, did you? She said, that's all I wanted. But I wasn't allowed because I had to go to work when I was 12 and had to leave school.
God love her.
And then when I got married, so then she sort of went and she worked as a nurse. She'll listen to this now, she'll kill me. But anyway, and she went and worked in the eye and ear. And then she got married and she had to give up her job.
God love her.
And I said, do you regret it? She said, sometimes.
God bless her.
Because, and I think of those women, when you're
Yeah,
saying that, right?
yeah.
I think of those women who had no voice,
Yeah.
who didn't even have the vocabulary to say, imagine your ma saying to her friend, is this enough for you? Like, they couldn't, Nicola.
Yeah,
They couldn't
I know.
say. So we were raised by women who wanted more but didn't even know how to say it.
I know.
And it's only now, and she's nearly 80, that she says, I actually wanted a different life.
I know.
I didn't know, and now I'm like at the end.
Yeah.
But I wanted a different life. That's not really what I wanted.
And my mum was the same, Sharon, and my
Yeah.
mum passed away last year.
Did she?
Yeah. And she was very young. Very, very young. So let's take all of that
Yeah.
and switch this for the people who are
That's
listening.
what I mean.
Right?
And say, we don't have to be that.
No, you don't. You don't have to conform to what's expected of you from external sources. You don't have to live a life that Hollywood told you that you need to live, or that your sister is living, or that your auntie is living, or that your ma lived. You don't have to do that. And another thing, Sharon, and this comes up all the time with women, it's not too late.
Yeah.
Where do I look? It's not too late. Okay? It's not too late. People are like, but I'm this age. I don't care what age you are. I don't care who you have to make uncomfortable. I don't care who you have to disturb to be able to go back and educate yourself. Or maybe sometimes it's not education. Maybe it's just get a different job. Or stop hanging around with them people.
Yeah.
Or stop going to that place. Or stop tolerating that language. Stop tolerating that culture and that behaviour. It's not too late to change. Other people might not change their spots, but you can.
Yeah.
So let's let the women of this country know, who are before us, who are with us and are going to be behind us, that everything is within your power. Stop giving your power away. That's why I'm an empowerment specialist.
Yeah.
Because I had to take my power back from lots of different sources. And I own it now. And I love it now. And I'm comfortable now. And I make all the changes that I need to make all the time. Whether people like it or people don't like it, it's none of their business, it's mine.
And I think that's the thing that holds a lot of people back. Men, women, everybody, what people think they should be doing.
I don't want to put people out.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah.
I don't want to put people out. I'll upset them now. I don't want to upset that. I don't want to upset the kids. I don't want to upset him. I don't want to upset her. I don't want to upset me ma.
Yeah.
So you're going to be going around upset.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Not on my shift.
And that's what happens with people.
Not on my shift.
People get stuck in that and they can't get out. They don't know how to find
Well,
their way.
here's the interesting thing about the word can't. I told you I'm big into language. When people say I can't, what they're actually, you see, I can't is a disempowering statement.
Right.
What they're actually saying is, and they don't own it, Sharon, is I am choosing not to do that.
Okay.
Right? When people, because I get people to swap, and by the way, at the start of every workshop, I put up a list of all the words you're not allowed to say in the room with me.
Okay, I love it. I love it.
Don't say that, because if you say that, I'm going to call you out and so is everybody else in the room.
Love it.
right? So
Yeah.
very, very strict, Sharon.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Can't what?
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
we're not saying can't, and we're not saying sorry. We're not doing any of them disempowering things. Very sorry. Very sorry for you now, but you're not saying sorry.
Yeah.
I'm after losing my train of thought. I was talking about I can't.
Yes.
So when you say I can't, you are making a choice, but you're saying it's nothing to do with you.
You're not being accountable.
You're not holding yourself accountable. You're handing your power away to the nothing, which is worse than giving it over to somebody else, because the nothing doesn't care about you. But if you say, I am choosing not to do that, that lands differently in your body.
Absolutely.
That lands differently. You have to swallow that. Everything is hard. Doing something is hard, changing it is hard, choose your heart.
And not
But the
doing it hard.
outcome will be different. So you're either saying stuck or unstuck. But we've loads of tools to help you with that.
So people are arriving with all those and the fucking baggage. Because I did some work on myself this year, right? I was saying I was working, I'm coming to one of your workshops. I am going now.
The
I am
one in October is going to be deadly.
I'm coming. But we were talking about masks. So when you start taking off your masks, now I'm being very honest here, I've lost a lot of friends this year
Good.
and last year.
Because they weren't your friends.
Because they weren't my friends.
No.
Now it hurts, but you can't put the mask back on.
No.
Once you take the mask off, it's gone. And I try to put them back on if I meet someone and it's like, I just can't be that now. And I won't say sorry, but I cannot be that now. Once it's off, it's gone. And as you start changing, but it affects other people.
And that's okay. Now, what you're describing there is Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when you make a change, everybody around you has to change. It's a scientific law. But they might not change in the way that you want them to. So one of two things happened when you took your mask off. First of all, you woke up. You were awake and you were breathing in fresh air for the first time and you liked it.
Yeah.
And it was good. And that shit is addictive. So do more of that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that people were going, oh, look at the Sharon one now. I know we're after making all them changes. Look at her now. Look, I always knew she thought she was deadly.
Yeah.
The heck of her.
Yeah.
I know her from telly.
Yeah.
We're our podcast and our YouTube channel. It was far from YouTube channels. That one was right.
Yeah.
They're the people. They're not your tribe. They're not your people. They don't want you to do well, Sharon.
Yeah.
They don't want you to do well. You cannot thrive in that environment. So I'm glad they're gone. Don't call them your friends anymore. They're the people you used to hang around with.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Right? Then there's the other people who go, Sharon, there's something different about you. I don't know what it is, but I'm liking it.
Yeah.
And I want a slice of that. Tell us about whatever that is.
Yeah.
They're your cheerleaders. They're your tribe. They're your soul sisters. That is the environment in which you will be nourished and grow. Now, they're different. I get the little drops of information in the back of my head. I'm not suggesting for a moment to you or to anybody who's listening to this that you start hanging around with yes people. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
We have to hang around with the cheerleaders who challenge us, the challenging cheerleaders. Because they're the people who'll go, do you remember when you said that thing? That wasn't great. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, I didn't realise. Thanks for pointing that out to me.
Yeah.
Like my team do it all the time. Like in our private membership groups, I'd say to my clients, I can't do this, the team won't let me. And then my clients come back and say, we can't believe that your team won't let you do this, and you actually listen to them. And I'm like, but they have my best interests at heart.
Yeah.
They actually know that that's no good for me. And they care about me. And they'd walk on water for me. So if they say that I'm not to do this, I have to let it sit in my body for a minute and see is that in alignment with my own values. And if it is, I go, do you know what? Don't like it, but they're right.
Yeah, because you know, when it lands and it's real, you know it's real and it lands.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when you start to change, your group starts to change, people around you start to change, all of that, and they say things and do mean things, but you find another tribe, you do.
You do. Now, and Pete, this is scary for people, and I want to acknowledge that that's scary for people. So what happens is that people say to me, oh, but I'd be afraid I might be left on my own. And some people are.
Yeah.
Some people are.
Yeah, I was for a while, yeah.
Some
absolutely.
people are.
Yeah.
But energetically, you see, the universe has no judgment. if you're throwing seeds into the ground of poison ivy, that's what you're telling the universe you want. The earth is going to give you back poison ivy. But if you're putting daffodil bulbs in the ground, you're going to get daffodil bulbs. What you're putting out is what you're getting back. So if you're holding on to all the toxic people in your circle and you're like, oh, but I'm afraid to let them go, to let them out, to make space for new people, the universe just goes, she hasn't learned our lesson yet. We'll have to give her more toxic people, more toxic situations, more drama, more, to see if she really thinks she deserves it. Because what you believe you deserve is exactly what is served.
Yeah.
So when you open the gate to let the people out, when you operate from a space of loving yourself unconditionally, from a humble space, not an egotistical space.
It's the difference.
You know, there's a massive difference. When you do that, when you establish your boundaries, when you live your values, then the universe goes, yay, she's ready. New people, new cheerleaders, more contacts.
And it happens.
It happens.
And it does. But I think you get to a point, I don't know what when you start on the journey, you can't unknow.
Yeah.
You can't unknow, you can't unlearn. It feels right. And as you said, then it's addictive.
Yeah.
And people need to make those changes in their life to move forward. Otherwise, you are going to keep getting what you got for your whole life.
Absolutely. Nothing changes, Sharon.
No.
But we were in a meeting on Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday last month for the Soulworks live Q&A. I do a live Q&A with them every month. And we were talking about the 5 stages of consciousness, right, which is part of the Soulworks programme. And the 5 stages are higher self, awake, slumber, asleep and coma. So there was a girl who hadn't been on a live Q&A and she's a real go-getter, a real active member. She's brilliant. I love her, Cora. And she hadn't been around for ages and she arrived on. And I said, where were you? Haven't seen you for a while. And she was like, yeah, you know the way you always say about like when you're awake and the 5 stages of consciousness. She said, I think I was taking a nap. And I was in stitches laughing at her. I was like, I have to stick nap in there somewhere along the 5 stages of consciousness. But when you're awake, you can never go back asleep.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. It's like, and the fear of it, but it's good and it's okay. But like, it's great to have a support group like yours for people going through the same thing at the same time. Because imagine how terrifying it is when you suddenly realise I'm actually on my own.
Yeah.
Oh no, you know, and then you'll just try and let them back into your life.
You see,
again.
this is why we call that peace versus boredom.
Yeah.
Right? So when people find peace and they do all the work that I just described, or they're in process of doing the work, and certain people are leaving their lives, when they find peace and then they don't know what to do with it because it's uncomfortable for them, then they get bored. And then they're like, I might just ring them.
Yeah.
Maybe I might just organise a soiree.
Yeah.
And then they're inviting that madness back in, you know?
Yeah.
Never mix up peace for boredom. Never, ever, ever. But, yeah.
So and then tell us about how you go into businesses and help them.
Okay.
So you were saying there's certain businesses you won't work with. If they're ticking a box and they just want this lip service and thanks, Nicola, no. So what do you do when you go into businesses and how do you help them?
So generally somebody in HR will reach out to me and they'll say, I found you on LinkedIn, you're a breath of fresh air, is what everybody says. Yeah. And I love that. So does that mean that you're drinking toxic air all the time and we're surrounded by toxicity all the time? In my mind, I'm like, this is sad to me.
Yeah.
So they tell me the cohort of people that they want me to speak to, the kind of talk that they want. Then I ask them about the challenges that they're having in their business.
Okay.
Right? Because there's no point in me rocking up if we're not going to talk about what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If they're not willing to go there about the challenges within the business, I'm very busy that day.
Okay.
I'm really booked up.
Because, you know, they're
ticking the box.
Yeah.
They're looking for me to go in and sprinkle magic, but there's no depth behind the magic. They're not willing to follow it up with anything. Yeah. They're not willing to support their people if they're showing up and being vulnerable and asking me questions and blah, 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 blah. No.
So you won't do it then.
They said, one company said to me one time, yeah, we want to talk about taking masks off, but we don't want to talk about people having to be vulnerable and all this. I says, I'm not the girl for you. You'd be better off getting someone else.
Because, yeah, you can't do that without that. You can't.
If somebody is trying to put parameters on me and the work that I do, and we let you talk about this, but you can't talk about that, no thanks.
It's not going to work.
That just feel like already, I just got a bit of chest pain even saying that. I'm just like, no, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because it's not, and like, isn't it a different work environment now? Aren't people looking for more? We were talking about this earlier on as well. Back in the day when I started working, I'm going to tell this story again, but just to you. When I had my first child, you had 12 weeks maternity leave, 4 taken before and 8 after. So you were back in work breastfeeding your baby, but you didn't tell anybody, you didn't moan about it, and there was no allowances given. I often used to have to go home on my lunch break to feed Kelly and get back into work.
Yeah.
But nobody spoke about it, and there was no, and you couldn't bring your problems in, and there was no being vulnerable, and nobody cared.
Yeah.
If your house burnt down, you need to come in and perform.
Yeah.
But that's a change in working environment now.
Yeah,
people
thank God.
are looking for more, and people are more open, and it's a better working environment where people care about their employees and who they have on site. And I think people like you are important in businesses, because sometimes the CEO, founder, director mightn't have the tools to help their staff.
No.
And don't know where to start.
And they also, sometimes they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid to open up the conversation for fear of backlash or for fear of having a tirade of problems or issues or challenges or whatever else. But what I say to people in those situations is those challenges and problems are not going away. All you're doing is sweeping them under the carpet, and that carpet will explode and you'll have more attrition.
Yeah.
So why would you not, if you have hired that person, you now have a responsibility to them, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So you're either going to make sure that they are healthy, happy and whole, or you're not. But you will lose your people.
Yeah.
You lose your people. Why would you do all that? Why would you give them all the internal knowledge and then they leave with all this internal knowledge? That's priceless.
Yeah.
Create a family within your business. Create a community within your business. Create leaders. Like my husband, I'm not joking you, he used to manage emergency services for the Republic of Ireland for a couple of years, and it was very, very challenging. And the way that he managed his team, they literally walked on water for him. Do you remember when there was the snow in 2010? Nobody could get to work.
Yeah.
They walked to work for him. They were fighting to get in to make sure that all of the hours were covered. And when they were hiring Neil initially, they were like, now this is emergency services for the Republic of Ireland. They said, would you be able to commit to answering 75% of the calls? And Neil said, absolutely not. And they were like, oh, well, what percent can you commit to? And he said, I will only commit to 100% of answering 100% of the calls, because the 15 or 25% or whatever it is that you're asking me to not answer, they better be all your family. The end.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah. So Neil has that level of commitment to his people. He's an excellent people manager. He knows how to mind his people. And look, there's give and
Never
there's
going to be
take. And
challenges.
I remember years ago there was a window gate and all that kind of, the window was going to be open, the window was going to be closed, but he managed it and he managed it well.
Yeah.
But stuff like that ends up in the High Court. Do you know what I mean?
Because it's mismanaged.
It's mismanaged. But look, he's good to his people. He really, really minds them. And as a result, they minded him back. And for that period of time, I use this example all the time when I'm speaking of business. For that period of time, it's called the Neil effect. Before it and after it, emergency services was never managed as well as it was. He's received awards for the percentage of life that was saved during the period of time that he managed that service. That's where we need to be operating. That's how we need to be looking after our people. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, and they need, and it is a support we all need in our businesses, because, I run a business, I'm busy. I'm busy sometimes I might miss something, but you do, if your intention is there and you get, but I think someone like you for businesses, Nicola, is really, really, really important. But I'd love you to do something as well for founders where you get groups of people together like me.
Yeah.
for somewhere to come.
Yeah.
And talk and be vulnerable and open and air our stuff.
Well, let's make it happen.
I think that would be an amazing thing. I think you could really help people in that area.
We will.
Yeah, we will. We will.
We'll make it
Now,
happen.
what else have I got to ask you? I've stuff written down here, but we would be here all day.
Do you know what? There was a question that you were asking me, but we got sidetracked. And I love a good tangent, because a tangent means that it's organic and it has to happen.
Yeah.
But you were saying to me at the time that it was just me when I started I Am Positive Mindset.
Yes. And you yourself, organically grown, just you in your business, didn't plan to have a business.
No, didn't.
And then what happened?
So I Am Positive Mindset was born, and the queue was out the door, and I literally was flabbergasted, couldn't believe it. And I wrote, so I'm big into, positive affirmations and visualization, and I wrote out 100 things that I wanted to achieve in the next 5 years. And I wrote stuff down and I just got a flippy stomach there, even a floppy stomach actually, when I said it, because the flip means something else in our world and the flop means a different thing. But I wrote stuff down that I didn't even think was achievable. I wanted a PA.
Right.
And I was like, I don't think I'm ever getting a PA, but I'm writing it down anyway, because I think this, I was getting busy.
Yeah, I need one.
I wanted an office, I wanted a view, I wanted a PA, and I had all these things in business and personal stuff as well. And I swear to God, within about 8 months it all happened. Every single bit of it.
Did it?
Yeah. And then the team just grew over time. And then I started my first online group where I was doing this with numbers and not just with individuals.
Yeah.
Because I knew I would burn out if I was just going to do it with individuals, that I needed to start doing it in a group setting. So I was doing that online, and the group was called the I Am Positive Mindset Family.
Right.
Right, and it really was and still is a family. That group is still operational, even though the business name has changed. That group name will never change. That will always stay the same, because that grounds me or reminds me of where I started.
Yeah.
And we still have some of the founding members 7 years later still in there. But I remember they were about halfway through the writing work.
Yeah.
We didn't know what it was at the time. And I was after travelling to Kenya to do some charity work with the street kids. And I was in an environment where these kids had no shoes. The boys were wearing girls' clothes that were too small for them. They were taking chicken bones out of a dump with a sanitary towel attached to it and eating it. I was in that environment.
Oh my God.
And one of the girls, I went online, and one of the girls was complaining about how hard the work was. And when you're coming from that environment, from the dump, to looking at the privilege, I lost it with her. I lost it with her on a live stream. And I was like, this is for you. This isn't homework. This is soul work. This is for your soul. And I just went for it because it was a private environment. Now, look, I go for it anyway online anyway.
Yeah.
But I can go for it a little bit more privately.
Yeah.
In a private setting, in a public group or private setting. And that's how Soul Works was born. I renamed all of the writing work Soul Work. Okay. Because people don't know how their own soul works. And people don't know who they are, really.
Yeah.
Nobody pulls you aside in school and goes, you look hurt. Let me teach you how to fix that properly from the inside out. Nobody ever says that to you.
No, they don't.
People go, you're grand. Look, wipe the knee there. There's a lolly off you pop there. Now you're great. Don't be crying anyway. That's what they say as a child.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, people go, oh God, she's crying. Jeez. We will have tea, will we?
Yeah.
You'll be grand. We'll go out.
I've even done
We'll go out for shots.
Yeah.
Nobody says, you are wounded, you're broken. Let me teach you how to fix that correctly from the inside out. Because all we're doing is learning how to fix ourselves from the outside in. Alcohol, drugs, pornography, affairs, Botox, clothes, shopping, gambling, whatever.
Yeah.
We're scrolling on social media, an extra glass of wine on a Friday. We're numbing ourselves instead of sitting in the discomfort of the madness that's potentially going on around you and the madness of what you feel on the inside, and getting to know that pain and working out why it's there in the first instance and learning the tools of how to fill that gap from the inside out.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my God, it is.
Can you believe that on Tuesday morning I was closing down my business because I was having a bad day?
I actually can. I actually can believe that because I have had those moments. So yes, I can.
Yeah.
But don't.
No, I won't. No, I won't. I won't. But yeah, I was very despondent, and it's really important that people hear this.
Yeah.
That I'm not perfect. I don't want to be perfect, and I do have bad days, and sometimes I do struggle with my mental health. But I have a million tools to be able to help me bounce back quickly. And Tuesday's a perfect example. So Tuesday, I was shy at my job. I didn't know what I was doing. Sure, who'd be listening to me anyway? I'm closing it down. People are not progressing as fast as I want them to progress. And that's it, the end. Now, that's it now.
Yeah, I'm giving it up.
I'm giving it up. But I had a live Q&A with the Soul Works community on Tuesday night, and I told them. I said, this is how I felt this morning. I said, but I had to bring it back to basics for myself this afternoon and bring in all the tools that got me there in the first instance. So we have a thing called DSP, Daily Spiritual Practice. So I had to do all of that and in a wobble file. So we have a wobble file of the things that we know are going to help us flick the switch. So I had to bring out my whole wobble file and do it all in the space of a couple of hours. And sure, then I thought it was deadly.
I'm taking over the world. Yeah.
Literally, I was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, no, I know.
But can you
it's
imagine
tough.
making a decision in that moment? Like, can you imagine if I just made an announcement and just said, you know what, no.
Oh, people do. They do.
Yeah.
They do. They make bad decisions in it. I remember I went to Rome with a few of my old friends back in the day, and we went to this, we were with the Jesuit priests.
Right.
And we were in this room and the ceilings were painted. And they discovered there was painting under the painting.
Wow.
Right? But it looked distorted, right? So they painted over because they thought it was wrong. But if you stood in one part of the room, everything came back into focus.
Wow.
Right? But the message behind it was, unless you're in the right place, you cannot see properly. So never make a decision until you have a clear focus. So they were unpainting this, but it stayed with me forever.
Good.
Because when you are in a bad place, you're going to make shit decisions and bad decisions. You can only make decisions when you're in a good place.
Yeah.
When you can see things clearly.
And I could have made a long-term decision for a short-term problem on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, and by the way, this is not me blowing smoke up me on behind. When I say this, I'm saying this from a very grounded, humble space. The minute I discussed this with my husband on Tuesday morning when I told him how I felt, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. I want to sell toothpicks is what I want to do. I want to do something real boring and just be and go back to just being a full-time mum is what I said. When I shared this with him, it shifted in me. It shifted in me. And I'm after losing my train of thought of what I actually wanted to say about what happened to me the minute I shared that with him, but it will come back to me.
You said, I'm not blowing smoke up me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon. Perimenopausal moment there. The words were only out of my mouth to Neil Byrne. And instantly, I got 4 messages to my phone. 2 people I knew them and 2 people I did not know them. Private messages on different platforms to say, this is my story. I don't know you, but this is the impact that your videos have had on me in the last 6 months, and these are the changes that I made, and I just wanted to say thanks.
Yeah.
And then 2 clients reached out to me and said, do you remember that thing that you told me that I needed to do, that I was avoiding, and then I did it, and I just want you to know that this is the change, this is the impact, and this is the difference that it's made to my life. Never stop doing, literally they all said, never stop doing what you're doing. Never stop doing what you're doing.
There you go.
And I was like, change my mind, Neeler. I'm going back to, I'm going back to being deadly.
Yeah. No, because everyone has it, and it's important.
It's important.
No one has a perfect life, and that's sort of what this podcast really started from. Was when I had moments like that in my business where I felt like a failure. I was never going to get anywhere. All I had was American people telling me on their podcasts how they built $1 billion company in 2 years. And they're living in Bali or somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? So where can I hear the people like me being honest about their journey and that they came from a similar place or different or great and wonderful, but like tell their stories that is real.
Yeah.
So that's what this was about, because I'd nowhere to go to say, I'm going to listen to her podcast now and hear people saying, I felt like closing down my business. I had the worst day. We had a terrible year. We didn't, whatever it was. And that's why I wanted to do this, because I was like, that's actually normal. Yeah. People have those thoughts.
So I didn't realise that you knew Rosemary, but Rosemary sent me this podcast recently and we had a discussion after. And, you know, it was just, maybe if you just focused a little bit more, maybe if you just stopped, you know, with the distractions and just focused, and you'd get to where you want to be. We're like, you're a bloke. You don't have kids.
Yeah.
You don't have white washing, black washing,
Yeah.
coloured washing. Some men do, but not all men do. But that's great. That's a lovely perspective to come from. Maybe if I just focused a little bit more, you for real.
It's completely different.
I'm heading for the menopause, love, and you're telling me to focus.
Yeah.
I can't spell me name.
I know. And it is so different. It is. And that's what I mean. Relatable. People have to be relatable and honest about what it's really
Now, I have to
like.
give a shout out to the men who do know about the black washing and the white washing and the coloured washing. There are a few yous out there, so go yous.
Who do care and who are weighing in. But like, it's a different world. I was on a thing with Rosie as well. We were on a mentorship program together. That's where I met her. And it was like the men were all had a different perspective. Getting up in the morning, they had the daily routine. And I was like, lads, it's totally different for us.
Yeah.
It's a completely different world. But
especially when you're a man.
And they do not understand it at all. Like there was one girl that was on it and like she had 2 small babies. And they were like, you need to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And she was like, I've only gone to bed at 3. Like, no. They were up 3 times in the night. So it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
Completely. So come here. I would stay here all day.
Yeah, I would
all
too.
day long. But I'm going to talk to you later about
I feel
that
like this is part
thing.
1.
Yeah. We'll have to have you back on. Definitely. And we will talk about that business piece for business owners.
Sure,
I think that'd be great.
I would love to do that with you.
But where can people reach you?
So they can literally reach me everywhere. I use every single social media platform apart from Snapchat because I'm allergic to it.
Okay.
So anything at all, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. I love TikTok.
Do you?
Love it. Love it. Yeah, love it. YouTube, NicolaConnollyByrne.com. The end.
That's where they're going to find you.
That's where they'll find me.
Oh my God. I'm doing this again with you, but I have to say thank you so much for being here, but also thank you for your work.
It's my pleasure.
Because it has impacted me through the phone in a different county and we've never met each other face to face. And I felt when I seen you today that I knew you all my life.
I'm glad.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.